Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
And inspire you to do even greater things. Hi, today is going to be a very interesting conversation with Pallav Prakash. In the eve of our 72nd Republic Day, we met with a Navy veteran, a computer technologist at heart, and being a program manager in Navy for more than 2 decades. He shares his journey of working with high-tech technology and the kind of awe that he has with technology at large. And he also shares with a lot of patriotism towards his country. And please bear with me that we have kept it as is, so that we want to hear his voice of how software has shaped his life as well as his journey as well. Listen on. Welcome to the Software People Stories, Pallav. Very excited to talk to you about your interests as well as your career development and your learnings in this whole journey. While we get started, can you introduce yourself as to what you're doing today and what has been your big milestones?
So thank you, Gayatri. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, listeners, for taking out time to listen to me. So my story about software is a kind of mixed one. In my early years, back in the 80s, I was in class. There used to be a criteria laid down that only a couple of people with a certain aggregate would qualify for computer science as a subject. So lucky for me at that time, software was something new. So I started my career with BBC microcomputer, if you all recall those days of early 80s. And from there, life took a turn and I landed in the Indian Navy. Navy for me was more of an adventure, a ride, I would say an experience by itself. You would walk into various domains of high-end softwares or you call technology. It's one of the prime leveraging platforms. Life in the Navy was pretty much exciting. It's a high technology, high risk, high reward game. In the career that I chose in the Navy, which was submarine, I would say there are no point of returns. So once you have crossed a line, you do not come back with an empty answer. Either you are there or you are not there. Having said that, I was in a situation back in the 90s and early 2000s when there was a heightened state of alert, the Kargil conflict and Operation Parakram. Then we could get to test all these technologies, the fire control solutions, the mapping, and back in those days, the GPS would not be too reliable. Everything came down into one. So that was the beginning of what we, at that time, India envisioned that we must have self-reliance. And at that time, there was a huge impetus on technology, softwares. So my life started with that. And as I grew up in the years, there was a lot of push for embracing technology. So I've been involved in a couple of high enterprise level program management. A couple of them were related to human resources. A couple of them were related to material planning. Some were related to database management. And last but not the least, in the early 2000s, or probably somewhere around 2010 or 2012, Navy embarked on digitization of what we call as files, the bureaucracy or the bureaucratic system. I'm very happy to let you know that a couple of days back, I read somewhere in the paper that the entire government of India, at least the central government, has switched over to an electronic file-based or a decision-based system. So that's the proof of the pudding. That beginning, Navy started something, and today it's all across the board. So I've seen that, been a part of it, carried some 20 years of experience, and then I came to this part of the world. and only to realize that India is not far behind. I must thank all the software people for making India what it is today. I have seen the level of difference when you walk in with a blue passport across immigration to various parts of the world, and the way you were treated and greeted versus the way you are treated and greeted now. So I have seen the change. I attribute it to the people who are in software and big, building so much of reputation far and wide, anywhere and everywhere. And now that I'm in San Francisco Bay Area, there's another component that I must acknowledge: the women in technology, or the Indian women in software. I would probably term it as the biggest lot or the biggest group that's an unsung hero. So I would like to take this opportunity to greet and to wish well for the women in technology specifically, because they have never claimed accolades, but they are a big backbone, and they are one of the most instrumental people for making India where it is today. So that's something I would like to link from my story to my motivation.
Awesome introduction, Pallav. I think if you know how internet was formed, right, in DARPA, so a lab actually they formed and said we have to communicate to each other, and that's how internet really formed. And I mean, from that, and I am from the electronics background. When we started learning electronics and communication, the main reason why we actually learned was for long range communication from a Navy, Army. You know, how do you ensure that in a fight situation you are able to communicate reliably? That time, every bit was extremely important. How do you ensure that those bits are not lost and they are retries and all of that? I mean, it's very great to hear you say that you've been the user of it from the Indian Navy standpoint. I have always felt that Indian Navy has been a cutting edge of it, right? Because that's the time when you actually see products.
Absolutely correct.
See, you actually go to your, in Bangalore, we used to have every year there will be once there'll be in Hindi it used to be called a pradarshan or a showcase of all the things. But you actually see only the hardware part of it. But you know intrinsically that these things are being powered by the beat from a software from an architectural perspective, the design of it, or the actual software which is powering. Can you share some stories from your implementation, saying that aha, this is also possible? You couldn't believe that.
I have a very a beautiful story to narrate. I was a young officer, and I went into a particular class of submarines, and I was told that, this equipment, this is from this country. This equipment, this is from this country. This machinery is from this part of the world. So I said, okay, all of that is there. Tell me something. What are the key pieces behind all of this? I mean, machineries and equipment will run. How do you manage them? How do you control them? What are the logistics involved? And what is the programming behind it? They said, and this is, I quote my that time commanding officer, and he smiled he was a lieutenant when these submarines were being acquired from abroad. He said, Pallav, the most interesting thing is that all of this is okay. Somebody has given this, somebody has given that. But the beauty in all of this is that the armament that is required to fire, which is all computerized, the fire control solution or the firing solutions or the computers or computation behind it has been done by Indians. And the story goes that at the time when Indian Railways was developing its first computerized reservation system with the help of Canadians in Canada, there was a parallel team of Indian naval officers who were writing codes to test the firing solutions of armaments and weapons, because they had all the hardware, but what we never got was this. And that was to what the stories have been told. That was the beginning of self-reliance. In fact, there are a couple of institutionalized mechanisms where the core technologies are actually being developed by Indians in India, and it has been tested in a battle scenario. It has been absolutely successful. So while people say that we got this equipment from this part of the world or that part of the world, let me assure you That is something that was developed by the Navy. That is one. The second most important thing is the inventory management system. When you have equipments and components from all parts of the world, inventory management is a huge issue. The second largest inventory management system in India is actually run by the Navy. And the first is actually the Air Force.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
So the largest inventory management system in India is actually run by the Air Force. The second is the Navy. And while the technology has spread, let me also assure you, Navy is one of the few services, at least what I know of, where the human resources, the inventory management, the battle management systems, the machinery control systems, all of these are actually driven by software. And that's where I say, and that was actually my first brush. I went into one of development centers, and my first brush was that I would find ladies working there wearing salwar suits in the morning and on the computer, on the solution, working to refine it, taking inputs from the users and working across. So as I said, this is where the unsung part goes. Nobody, the credit always, my commanding officer used to say, the credit always goes to the CEO, but it's the ship or the submarine that has worked hard for it. So that is where I would say one of the stories. And on the battlefront, on the battlefield, it is these codes that don't fail us to make our lives positive. I really wish that we would have had seen some kind of action, but I would say in the interest of peace, that did not happen. That these codes have never failed us. In fact, our full financial management system of the Navy, I was a part of it, which we started. The entire budgeting of the Navy actually runs on an enterprise level financial management system. And that has been developed by Indians coming up with solutions that we never thought of. Now Navy has access to satellites, the combat systems have changed, it's more and more reliance on technology, but nothing of it would have been possible had these our fellow mates and why I keep repeating Indians is because I'm based out of San Francisco. So you have to understand that context. So they are the ones who have driven to come up with innovative solutions cater to Indian situations. So hats off to them.
See, sometimes it's not about using the weaponry. Actually, if you have the weaponry, that gives a self-confidence. You have something in your armory. I think that is the biggest thing. In fact, more and more the countries are developing. Everybody is investing more and more into software of drone technology, or the recent Azerbaijan gave a very different insight of warfare. We do not want those warfare, but at the same time, we also want those systems and to protect ourselves, right? So one is the sides of, the actual physical protection. The other is data protection. How do you ensure that you protect yourself from all the piracy issues and everything? So I think different levels of protection, I think everywhere software plays a big role.
I can tell you from this another two incidences I'll quote you. One is the Falklands War, when the Argentinians had bombed the aircraft carrier of the British and the bombs fell like a dud. Reason, the armament or the coding or whatever was required to trigger that fuse did not happen. Lesson to take away what Navy took was, what is the point of having a high-end weapon when you do not have a good guidance system to control it? And that is pure software. That's pure electronics. That's pure EEPROM or whatever name you want to give it. We have been able to overcome that challenge in our own Indian way. And you have to realize that once you are giving, when some country tries to give you brains, then what happens is there's a huge charge or the huge amount to it in the transfer of technology. That is where our software people have come to assist not only the government, but the country as a whole, for a simple reason. In those 90s and 2000s, when India was in an economically tight position, these people developed it on their own, gave the technology, gave the wherewithal, and gave the confidence. And today, when we say that, we can operate from anywhere, we can be in any part of the world, we can be in space. So it's all because the software, the technology, the encryption systems, whatever goes into giving a safe product, a safe program is what Navy has been able to achieve. And I'm very happy to say that as a man today who's now not in uniform, I still remain very satisfied and very thankful to the way people have gone about and delivered what is required. I mean, software people have delivered technologies all across the world. Indians are known as the IT people. But I can tell you what they have delivered to India is itself very commendable.
I think hats off to you, Pallav. And every time there is any conversation about folks who are serving, it is very with a sense of patriotism, right? Immediate patriotism. There is no, I mean, there's nothing like, some song has to go in the background, nothing like that. It just comes automatically. I think hats off to you and your service. Can you share how from there you moved out of Navy and you've been in this program management, and what made you shift to US?
I will put it this way. There are some kind of people who have a little, I would not say deviated way of thinking, but have a hunger and desire to see what's going on in others' plates than, what has been served. So to them. So that was one of the thought process that been in various parts of the Navy. I mean, frontline deployments, ships, submarines to human resources. And finally, before leaving, I was a part of the veteran administration system. In India, they call it the pension office, and was in the forefront of setting it up. After having done that, something struck me. And that was that this has been a very contented life. What next? Where's the next challenge? I don't say Navy didn't have challenges. Navy had lots of challenges. Somewhere I thought, why not taste something which is outside of the regular palate? And of course, my better half, as I said, the unsung hero, my wife, she was a part of that decision making and supported me immensely. And I landed at the Johns Hopkins University to pursue an MBA on a scholarship. And the story goes is that as part of it, when during internships, people try to go to a commercial sector or a banking sector or a technology sector or something. For whatever worth it may be, I chose and I landed up in a public school system, because somewhere I felt one of the best ways to give it to a country or any country is to be a part of their challenges and work towards it. So in my own very little way of a very small internship program through a summer, I interned at Chicago Public Schools. And from there, the journey began, and I landed at Anita B as a risk program manager. And as one would say, got very close to how technologies are developed and delivered and how you can have data sets that are more, I would not say gender equitable. That is one of the challenges we face on internet, how these data sets would actually be able to cater to that requirement. So I've been a part of that movement. And of course, I met you there. And as luck would have it, one fine day, I was asked to manage India programs. And I came across you, Gayatri, and several other very, very interesting people. So again, this is a question of how do you try and solve a problem in society. It's not exactly a problem, but how do you make sure that people who are working towards solving a problem, how can you further their voices and those kind of thoughts which make things more gender equitable across the globe. It's not only India or US. And then I was also involved in EMEA part of our programs, of the program segment of Anita B. Recently, I have joined an organization that it's a startup and doing very well, trying to solve the child transportation problem in the school system of United States.
Wow.
So this is where I would say, the program management or the IT solutions are being crafted. These kind of stories are being crafted, and my CEO, she's an Indian woman of trying to solve a child transportation problem or the school bus problem of this thing, and how we can leverage this technology to the next level where it is in conformity with climate change issues. That means how do we adopt new technologies in this area where children are not exposed to the gaseous fumes and things like that.
So use optimized routes and ensure that you have the least cost as well as the from a environment perspective.
Yeah, vehicle with low fuel emissions,
Okay.
new generation vehicles, electric vehicles, and things like that. Grateful to have this kind of an opportunity to move forward. And as I said, solving IT has immense capability to solve world problems. Not all, but a lot of it. This is where I would say the people in the software must think and move forward, that eventually they are solving a problem.
Very true, Pallav. In fact, you saw talking about solving the school problems. It's a very interesting problem. It's mind-boggling that school process has been existing for 50 years, but nobody actually thought of. They've just done an incremental change, right? I think that's a big thing.
And let me tell you, my leader, Ritu, who happens to be a first-generation immigrant in the US, and she has been in the forefront, and her story is exactly that if I need to send my children to school, how do I send it safely? How do I send it in an environmentally conforming manner? How can I make the society more, I would say, free from all of this pollution? A lot of factors were put in, and then the Zoom was created, which is my current organization. Problem solving can only be done, or solutions can be found, not from somebody sitting on top of it, but somebody who's in the middle of it or right at it. So unless you are in that problem, you cannot understand the overall situation. And that is what I take this analogy back to the independence days, when our previous generation of forefathers thought that we would not like to be told what to do, rather than we would try and find solutions of how to do, where to do. It may take a little while here and there, but we'll get there. And this is what is that spirit that continues to till today. We have made a lot of forays into solving technological challenges to make systems or businesses work. Now is the time to use those technology to make the society work, a society as a whole as a better place. And this is where solving child transportation system, working to push more women into technology, so that data sets that exist in this world, they are more balanced, they become equitable. How do you make technology more accessible? These are the issues, these are the challenges which I would say the society needs to find solutions. And I'm very gung-ho and very upbeat about the fact that a lot of solutions are coming from those who were in some or the other kind of situations in the past or in the present in that problem. So that is something which I feel very upbeat about, that those solutions are coming. A lot of it is coming from India. A lot of work is being done across the world. I mean, not only in India, but across the world. But people who are doing it are actually the ones who have faced it at some point in time. And it's not a borrowed idea, quote unquote, that, you think about something and then do it. No, it is actually the people who are facing it. This is my experience. I would say society still remains society. Challenges may differ because of place and geography or conditions or cultural norms, but eventually solutions have to be found. And IT or software is or technology is one of the best ways, or I would say it actually reduces the timelines to solve those problems. So that is my take.
I think it's fantastically put. In fact, if you reduce the timeline and reduce the cost, right, to that extent, you're actually reducing the resistance from the electronics world. If you actually, it's not that every resistance can be overcome, but if you actually have a lower resistance, the ability for more people to overcome increases. You actually have this catalyst effect, right? More and more people do it. I think it spearheads by in itself. It's been a very, very interesting conversation, Pallav. So if you look at yourself, right, where do you see yourself in the next 5-8 years?
A person who likes to be in the forefront of solving problems. I see myself in a space where I continue to work and give back to society. I do not know which society, what society, where society, but I do know that it has to be a thing where I should be giving back to society. It could be in the forefront of commercial technology, or it could be in forefront of solving the needs of the society. But I do see myself as one of the persons who will be involved in this game. And why I say so is, it's not only true for me, it's true for everyone. The current generation is the one which is leapfrogging technology. And I will give you an example what technology has done to humans. My mother, when I was a child, my mother would say that pick up the phone, tell the operator that you have to call your father on this number and book a trunk call. This was in early 80s. So I would pick up a phone and I would do that whenever I would like to speak. When I grew up and I became an officer in the Navy, I would go at 10 in the night and I would go to what we called then as ISD, STD, PCO.
Yeah.
And wait till 10 o'clock, till the rates would come down to a quarter for the day, and then talk to my parents maybe once a week. Now, my youngest son came to the US when he was 3 or 4. 3.5 years. And now the way he understands that technology is that, and he told me the other day when he around his 5th birthday, that Dad, it is very bad to talk on phone by keeping your phone on the ears. You have to call, you have to see the other person and then speak.
Okay.
So he understands a phone where you can do a video call, because the boy has not seen that. I'm a person who has transited from a so-called booking a call, waiting for 3 hours, and then to now a place where people would just pick up the phone. And he said, Dad, you don't need to remember all these numbers. It has no meaning. Just tell, one of those voice assistants, and that voice assistant will call. This is how technology has changed for the common people. I'll give you another small anecdote. The other day I was reading about, I think it is Nal Se Jal ya Jal Se Nal, and pardon me for missing that, but it is the ability to provide drinking water or tap water to the villages in India. Nal Se Jal. And while there has been a lot of stories behind it, does anyone even think that all of that has been possible with IT technology mapping where what is being done? When you put a water pipeline, you should know, whatever the distance or the water or the consumption and things like that, whatever are the parameters. Unless you map it, you wouldn't know where this has been laid out and where it is today. What I'm trying to say is technology, the fruit of technology is best when the society consummates it. That is where I see not only myself, I see the current generation. I know for a fact that the youngest nation in the world is India. And from wherever India has reached, it is going to go farther because the current generation understands the value of technology. And the older generation would always support for a simple reason. They have seen that change.
And there is also this term, right? Fire in the belly. So if you have seen the worst, you know that you want to get better. So not that, and it's not from a position of greed or a position of, wanting more and more, but actually just to ensure that you don't regress as a society. I think that in itself is a very worthy cause. And that motivates. I think for me, just being a woman in tech and ensuring that I stay in the path keeps me motivated. How much ever every challenges are there, so many challenges are there for all of us. That keeps us going.
There's a very small anecdote I would like to share. I was talking to a girl student or a lady student or whatever you want to say in one of the premier institutes of India. And this is about 15 years back when I was just about in my early 30s. This lady, she must be a professional now. In one of the conversations, I said, why did you choose computer science? And again, no offense meant to any other branch. All are equally valuable and they are important because you can't do one with the other. And I said, See, computer science would always be in the back end of the thing, enabling systems. So why can't you be in the forefront? See how people choose their streams in life. And I wish and hope that she has continued till this date in that stream. She said, I chose computer science and I worked hard towards it because I knew that in the merit list, you have to have a certain number of seats are there and you got to be in the high merit to make it. Again, as I said, no offense to any other branch, but she said a very good reason that, sir, the best part for me, the only reason for me to choose computer science is that I will get to sit in AC and work. Imagine what a small logic for somebody to work hard and make it to the top hundreds of the merit list to get the subject of her choice, simply because she said my life would be comfortable. Fast forward 20 years, and I again went on to meet this now a lady, and in the so-called the forefront of technology, but I saw her as one of the business leaders. And I just happened to exchange notes. And I said, you remember, I was that time a lieutenant, and today we are meeting here in the US, and you were the one who told me this. So she laughed off and she said, Pallav, I pursued it for a very long time till in most of the world that I would work, the environment itself was AC. So it did not matter whether I am a computer technologist or I'm a businesswoman. The world has changed, India has changed, and while we are meeting in this part of the world, I actually work in India and I work to promote technology or take technology to the villages. So that is the second part of the story, which is the beautiful part, that I had access to technology. I could compete and reach. Now I know my country has the capability to produce those many engineers. I want to take this to the girls and the boys in the villages so that they can get the benefit or reap the benefit of technology or computer technology or software technology. And we could get some fresh ideas to develop new solutions. So that is how I see things changing.
It's amazing summary of how as a country also we are changing, right? When I joined the workforce, one of the questions that I was asked is why software? At that point in time, the first answer was, guess what? It's actually paying a lot more than other.
There are very small reasons.
So right, it may sound very naive. Oh, you didn't have a passion, you didn't have this. I said, that's not where my mindset was, but now I do have, because that my basic needs, right, are already fulfilled, that I have a self-actualization that I'm moving towards. So it's very, very well summed up. I know we've been talking quite a bit. Any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience? Could probably have one more follow-on conversation. I have so many questions.
Oh, 100% anytime. But there is one thing I would definitely try and tell the audience. And that is, please continue to do what you are doing in a very small little way. You are actually the building blocks of not only the nation, but I would say society as a whole. You may be working for an organization that may be based out of some part of the world. You may be working on a technology that is solving some other problem of some other part of the world. But please remember one thing, eventually you are solving a problem. And as I said, there were times that I have walked past an immigration, and I would, again, no offense meant, people hardly knew. Some people have actually asked me in the past, oh, you are from India, but where is actually India located? This is back in 2005 and 6 when I would travel to some remote parts of Europe, to now a situation, oh, you are from India, oh, you are the IT guy. I said, no, I do not have an IT degree. No, but you are still an IT guy. Indians and IT, they go hand in hand. So this is something that I must tell you, and this is across the globe. Believe you me, in about 50 odd countries that I've been to, the general perception is Indians are problem solvers, and they solve problems through technology. So I would not only say Indians, I would say people in the software domain, please understand and think and take pride that you are actually solving a problem. It's not about running some kind of program or a project or this or that. Eventually, it is problem solving. And you may be in the back end, but the final user who's on the front end is actually benefiting from how you do it and the way you have done it. So that would be my message. And a little addition to that would be my salutes to the women in technology or to the women out there who still a lot of them go unrecognized. I would say the day has come. The world is having a look at these people who are managing the challenges of the society, the business, the work, and the family. This is something that I would like to commend those women out there, the way they are working, the positive mindset they have. Once they grow, the next generation grows. So that is the most important thing. That population is actually the one which will drive future generations.
Excellent, Pallav. I actually have goosebumps now.
I'm very grateful. A lot of it goes to my mother. I have seen her changing multiple hats at multiple times, rising to challenges. And when I see how can we make sure that this person can be enabled further in solving the problem at which he or she is there. The only thing is that I have now started looking more positively or with a deeper sense of gratitude towards women, and not for anything else. But as you grow and mature, you realize that this is that my grandmother would go as an unsung hero. My mother went as an unsung hero. Sometimes when I see my children talking to their mama in some ways, I take that time out to talk to them and say that, remember, she is the one who has held us together. So good stead or bad stead, but she's the one who's the binding factor. And that is why I say for women out there, please understand that this is your moment. Live it and live it to the full. You are a part of problem solving and not the other way around. So I like to send this message across to the women in India, especially those who are in technology.
Excellent, ma'am. Thank you so much, and wish you a very, very happy 2022. And I hope all your dreams and wishes come true, and wishes to all the listeners as well. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Gayatri. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thank you all, the audience. Wish you all a very, very happy new year and lots of successes ahead.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.